The stars had never looked so peaceful, which made it all the more annoying that Captain Jake Miller was falling through them at the speed of "oh no, oh no, oh no." His ship, the Wanderlight, shuddered and screamed as sparks rained from the control panels. Alarms blared, red lights flashed, and Jake, who prided himself on being calm under pressure, yelled at the universe itself. "Not my fault this time," he shouted, slapping random buttons. "Okay, maybe a little my fault." Something exploded. The floor tilted, and before he could finish his next complaint, the ship spun down through a violet sky and crashed into the prettiest field he had ever seen, all soft, glowing grass and twin suns hanging like gold coins above a lavender horizon. When the dust cleared, Jake coughed, brushed off a smoldering sleeve, and looked around. "Well," he muttered, "10 out of 10 for the view, 0 out of 10 for hospitality." He didn't have long to enjoy the scenery. Figures appeared on the hills, tall, silver-armored, and moving with sharp, perfect grace. Their armor shimmered like liquid glass, their eyes gleaming like molten fire. One of them shouted something that definitely didn't sound like "welcome." Jake raised his hands. "Hi there, big misunderstanding. Just a lost traveler, not an invading army." The soldiers surrounded him anyway, blades drawn. The air hummed with power and tension. Then the crowd parted. She walked forward, and the world itself seemed to pause. The alien queen was taller than any of them, her skin a soft silver that caught the sunlight like silk. Her long hair, pale as starlight, moved as if it remembered gravity only when it wanted to. A crown of living vines rested on her brow, they whispered in a language Jake couldn't place. And her eyes, golden and sharp, looked at him as if she could see every secret he'd ever tried to hide. "Human," she said, her voice ringing like music wrapped in thunder. "You stand upon royal ground. Explain yourself before I decide what you are, conqueror or prey." Jake blinked. His brain, which had bravely survived a crash landing, now found itself trying to function under stunning space queen stares at you like you're a bug. He cleared his throat. "Hi, Jake Miller, definitely not a conqueror, prey, maybe, depends on who's asking." A murmur ran through the crowd. A few aliens frowned, others smirked. The queen's gaze didn't waver. "You mock me," she said slowly. "Not mock," Jake replied quickly. "A joke. Humans joke when scared. It's either that or cry, and crying makes my helmet fog up." For a long moment she just watched him. Then something strange happened. Her lips curved, just slightly, like she was fighting off a smile. "Strange creature," she murmured. "You speak of fear, yet you stand before blades and do not tremble." "Oh, I'm trembling," Jake said honestly. "You just can't see it because my legs went numb 5 minutes ago." That earned a low laugh from somewhere behind her. The queen didn't stop it. Her soldiers exchanged wary glances. No one made the queen laugh. She stepped closer, her presence radiating calm power. The ground almost seemed to hum with her heartbeat. "Your vessel fell from the stars," she said. "No being survives such a fall." "Guess I didn't get the memo," Jake said. "I'm full of bad ideas and good luck." The queen tilted her head, studying him. "Luck," she repeated like it was a new word. "Or fate." Before he could respond, she lifted the weapon from her back, a massive curved blade glowing faintly blue. The soldiers straightened instantly. She pointed it toward him, the tip hovering an inch from his chest. "My name is Queen Sarath Rave of the Thalna Dominion," she said. "You have trespassed on sacred land, human. Yet you do not cower, and the wind speaks strangely in your favor." Jake swallowed. And that means?" Her golden eyes narrowed, and then shockingly she flipped the blade, offering him the hilt instead. "Fight with me," she said, "or against me, choose." Jake froze. "Sorry, what was the third option?" Her lips curved again, a dangerous smile this time. "There is no third option." He looked at the blade, at the strange symbols glowing across it, at the crowd watching in silent disbelief. He had no idea what was happening, but for some reason his heart was pounding like it knew this was important. Slowly, carefully, Jake reached out and wrapped his hand around the hilt. The metal vibrated soft at first, then stronger, until it glowed bright blue beneath his touch. Gasps rippled through the soldiers. Even the Queen's eyes widened. Jake blinked down at the blade, then looked up. "So, I guess that means I picked the with you option." Sarethra studied him for a heartbeat longer, then said quietly, almost to herself, "Perhaps the stars have finally sent me a fool worth listening to." And just like that, the alien queen smiled, and Jake Miller realized that crash landing on an alien planet might be the best bad day of his life. Jake Miller didn't know much about alien royalty, but he was pretty sure accepting a glowing sword from a 7-foot-tall queen in front of an army wasn't standard interstellar etiquette. Still, here he was standing in a circle of staring soldiers, holding a blade that was way too heavy for one hand and humming like a happy engine. "Okay," Jake said, adjusting his grip. "Quick question before we start. What exactly are the rules here? Because last time I played Fight or Die, I didn't bring a sword." The Queen Sarethra Vey looked impossibly calm, silver hair glinting beneath the twin suns. "There are no rules, human," she said, voice low and sharp. "Only survival." "Ah," Jake muttered, "so bad news then." Without warning, she lunged. Her movements were fast, elegant, and terrifyingly precise. Jake yelped, stumbled back, and barely parried. The force sent a shock up his arm. He blinked at her. "Are we sure this isn't just an elaborate way to tell me to leave your planet?" Her eyes glimmered with amusement. "You accepted the blade. You chose to fight with me. Now prove you deserve it." "Oh, that's what that meant," Jake gasped, ducking under another swing. "Good to know." The onlookers murmured, confused. To them, it looked like a dance, a strange one but full of energy. The Queen attacked with grace. Jake defended with desperation and an alarming amount of improvisation. He tripped over a rock, rolled, and somehow used the momentum to dodge another strike. The sword's hum changed pitch, matching his heartbeat. Sarethra stopped for a moment, watching him. "You are untrained, yet your movements are unpredictable." "Yeah," Jake said, panting. "That's called panic." Something flickered in her expression, not quite laughter, but close. "Then perhaps panic has power." She attacked again, but slower this time, as if studying him. Jake parried clumsily, sparks flying where their blades met. Each clash echoed across the violet fields. When the fight ended, both stood still, breathing hard. Jake's arms trembled. Her gaze was unreadable. "You lasted longer than I expected," Sarethra said finally. "Thanks," Jake said, resting the sword tip in the dirt. "I try to exceed low expectations." To his surprise, that earned him a smile, a real one this time, soft and warm. "You are either brave or foolish." "Little of both," Jake admitted. "Mostly foolish before lunch." Her soldiers whispered again. The Queen ignored them and stepped closer, her shadow falling across him. "Few have ever touched the royal blade and lived," she said quietly. "It sings only for the blood of my line, yet when you took it, it awakened." Jake raised a brow. "Awakened like it was asleep." "Like it recognized you." "Great," Jake said. "Now I have a glowing sword that likes me better than my ship did." Her smile widened, and for a heartbeat, she looked less like a ruler and more like a woman who had found something, or someone, genuinely interesting. "You speak strangely, human," she said, "and yet you make the impossible sound simple." Jake shrugged. "That's humanity in a nutshell. We make it up as we go along." The Queen tilted her head. "Perhaps that is why the stars sent you." Before he could reply, one of her captains stepped forward, tall, stern, clearly not amused. "My queen," he said, "this creature cannot be trusted. He is reckless, unworthy of your favor." Sarethra didn't even turn to look at him. "You saw what I saw, Captain. The blade chose him. Would you challenge its will?" The captain hesitated, then bowed. Jake glanced between them. So, does this mean I'm part of the team now? You will prove yourself, Sarathra said. The Festival of Blades approaches, a trial where warriors from every world gather. You will fight beside me. Jake blinked. Fight beside you, as in on purpose. Yes. He groaned. You really need better hearing standards. Her golden eyes sparkled. Perhaps I enjoy challenges. She turned, her long cloak sweeping behind her as she walked away. Rest, human. Tomorrow we begin your training. Jake watched her go, still clutching the sword. The aliens whispered around him, but all he could hear was the faint echo of her words, fight with me. He exhaled and muttered to himself. Well, Jake, you just got recruited by a space queen. Again, somehow, this is your best Tuesday ever. He didn't notice Sarathra pause at the top of the hill, looking back at him, a small, secret smile on her lips. Foolish human, she whispered softly to the wind. Perhaps fate has a sense of humor after all. And beneath the twin suns, the blade in Jake's hands glowed brighter, as if agreeing. Jake Miller woke up to pain, sunlight, and the gentle sound of someone laughing at his misery. Rise, human, Queen Sarathra said, her voice smooth as metal and warmer than the twin suns that burned above them. You have rested long enough. Jake groaned and rolled over. I think I broke every bone that's not currently complaining. You exaggerate, she said, tilting her head. You survived, that is all that matters. Yeah, easy for you to say, he muttered, sitting up. You didn't get thrown across the training yard by a giant lizard with an anger problem. That lizard is my champion beast, Varin, she replied, amused. You must learn to dodge him. I tried dodging, he just followed. Her lips curved slightly, then dodge better. Jake squinted up at her, the sunlight framing her silver hair like a halo. You know, you have a really weird definition of encouragement. Sarathra's soldiers had gathered nearby to watch. Their queen training a human was unheard of and highly entertaining. Jake could feel their stares every time he tripped, stumbled, or fell face first into the dust. But Sarathra didn't mock him. Not once. She corrected his stance, adjusted his grip, and watched with a strange patience that confused even her own people. Again, she said, handing him the sword, her sword glowing softly in his hands. Focus, feel its rhythm. It's humming, Jake said, like a cat that wants to murder me. Then listen to it, she said simply. He sighed, trying again. The sword's weight seemed to shift, lighter when he moved with it, heavier when he didn't. It felt alive. He swung, missed his mark, and spun himself around again. Sarathra caught him by the wrist before he could fall. Her hand was cold but her touch gentle. You are not hopeless, she said, just human. Thanks, he said, smiling. That's the nicest insult I've gotten all week. Her eyes softened for a moment, gold catching sunlight. Your people use humor to hide fear. Why? Jake hesitated, surprised by the question. Because if we laugh at it, it feels smaller, he said quietly. And sometimes when everything's falling apart, that's all we've got. Sarathra studied him. Strange, she murmured, yet I envy it. He looked up. You, the all-powerful space queen, you don't seem like someone who envies much. I was born to lead, to be flawless, she said, her tone distant. Flawless things cannot laugh, they must always win. Jake smiled softly. Maybe that's why you needed me. I'm terrible at winning. That earned him a sharp look and then unexpectedly a laugh, a real one, low and musical. Her guards froze. They had never heard her laugh like that before. Your tongue is dangerous, human, she said, shaking her head. You make me forget I am meant to be feared. Yeah, I do that a lot, he said, mostly by accident. The afternoon heat shimmered around them. Training turned into a kind of dance, clumsy, sweaty, and full of near misses. But every time Jake fell, he stood up again. Every time Sarathra corrected him, their hands brushed, lingering just a little too long. When the suns began to set, painting the sky in orange and violet, she called an end to the lesson. "You improve," she said, watching him with quiet pride. "Slowly but truly." Jake leaned on the sword, breathing hard. "So, how long before I'm good enough to not die instantly in this tournament thing?" She walked closer, standing so near he could see the faint silver freckles across her cheeks like tiny stars. "That depends," she said. "Do you fight to live or to protect?" He frowned. "Protect what?" "Perhaps," she said softly, "you will decide when the time comes." The wind brushed through the tall blue grass around them. Neither spoke for a while. The tension between them hung like an unfinished sentence. Then Jake, always one for poor timing, broke it. "So, do I get, like, a medal for not fainting today? Or maybe dinner that's not alien soup?" She smiled, slow, dangerous, beautiful. "If you survive training tomorrow, you may dine at my table." His grin widened. Was that an invitation or a threat? "Both." She turned away, her cloak whispering across the ground. "Rest well, human. Tomorrow the real lessons begin." As she walked back toward the palace, Jake watched her, the silver of her hair glinting against the burning horizon. Something inside him stirred. Curiosity, admiration, maybe something more. He looked down at the sword still glowing faintly in his hands. "You and me, buddy," he said softly. "Let's try not to get each other killed." The blade pulsed once, as if answering. And under the fading light of two suns, Jake Miller smiled, wondering if fate had just decided to give him the most impossible adventure, and possibly the most dangerous woman in the galaxy. The twin suns rose over the valley of Sharon, turning the sky gold and violet, a royal dawn for a royal day. The festival of blades had begun. Across the great arena, banners fluttered like living fire. Thousands of alien warriors filled the stands, their cheers echoing through the mountains. Gleaming ships hovered overhead, shining beams of light down onto the sand. And right in the middle of all that glory, Jake Miller was trying to keep his breakfast where it belonged. He tugged nervously at his armor, which felt like it had been made for someone twice his size and half his ability to stand upright. "I'm just saying," he muttered, "we could still fake an emergency and leave early. I can make a smoke bomb out of the cafeteria toaster again." Queen Sarethra turned her head, the faintest spark of amusement in her golden eyes. "You fear the crowd. I fear the part where they expect me to fight in front of it." "You will not fight alone," she said simply. Jake smiled weakly. "That's supposed to help." She stepped closer, close enough that he could smell the faint metallic sweetness of her scent like rain on stone. "You forget," she said softly. "You hold my blade. When you fight with me." Her words steadied him in a way he didn't understand. He nodded, straightened up, and tried to look like he belonged there. Trumpets, or something like trumpets, blared across the arena. The announcer's voice, deep and booming, spoke in the Thalnar tongue. "The Queen of the Dominion enters." The crowd roared. Sarethra walked forward with perfect grace, armor gleaming like moonlight, her long cloak rippling behind her. Jake followed, a step behind, trying to look less like someone who had tripped twice on the way here. As they entered the ring, warriors from other worlds watched with curious, suspicious eyes. No human had ever stood beside a Thalnar queen. Jake leaned toward her. "You sure they're cheering and not planning to eat me?" "If they were," she murmured, "you would not hear them first." He gulped, comforting. Their first challenge was a duel, a test of balance and teamwork. Two opponents approached. A tall alien with obsidian skin and 4 arms, and his partner, a creature with wings of glass and a spear like lightning. Sarethra drew her secondary blade. Jake tightened his grip on hers. "Ready?" she asked. "No," he said, "but let's do it anyway." The battle began in a blur. Sparks flew as metal clashed with alien energy. Jake ducked a swing, rolled, and somehow managed to deflect a spear with his glowing sword. The weapon sang with every movement, guiding him like it knew what to do, even when he didn't. Sarathra moved beside him like wind and thunder, graceful, fierce, unstoppable. Together they moved as one, her precision, his chaos, blending into something neither of them expected. At one point, Jake tripped on the sand again, but his fall brought down the winged opponent by accident. The crowd gasped, then erupted in laughter and cheers. Sarathra turned toward him, half exasperated, half impressed. "You fight like no warrior I've known." "Because I'm not one," Jake panted. "I just have great reflexes and poor life choices." They won. Against all odds, they won. As the opposing warriors bowed and withdrew, the crowd chanted the word "Hu-Man" again and again until the arena shook. Jake looked around in disbelief. "Are they cheering for me?" Sarathra nodded. "For us." Their next trial was endurance, waves of smaller opponents, illusions, even the Queen's own soldiers testing them. By the time it was done, Jake could barely lift his arms. When the final gong sounded, he dropped to his knees in the dust, grinning despite the pain. "Please tell me that's the end, because if it's not, I'll just die dramatically and save time." Sarathra laughed freely, beautifully, and offered him her hand. "You are not allowed to die yet," she said. "You still owe me a dinner." He looked up at her, her face glowing in the light of the setting suns. "You remember that?" "I remember everything that amuses me," she said, helping him to his feet. Their eyes met, his tired and human, hers fierce and full of something soft she didn't yet understand. Around them, the crowd chanted their names together. For the first time in her reign, the Queen of the Thalnar smiled at someone instead of for her people. And Jake, covered in sweat, bruises, and dust, smiled right back. "Guess I did okay, huh?" Sarathra's golden eyes glimmered. "You did more than okay," she said quietly. "You reminded the stars why humans were made to shine." As they walked from the arena side by side, the cheers echoing behind them, Jake glanced at her and whispered, "So, about that dinner." She looked at him, a queen, a warrior, and for a heartbeat, something like a woman smiling at possibility. "Tomorrow," she said, "if you can still stand." "Challenge accepted," Jake said with a grin. And under the light of 2 suns and 1,000 voices, the legend of the human and the queen began to spread. A tale of laughter, courage, and something that felt dangerously close to love. The Festival of Blades was over, but its echo still filled the alien city. Music drifted through glowing streets, laughter spilled from marble balconies, and banners of silver and gold waved in the breeze. The people celebrated their queen's victory and the strange human who had stood beside her. Jake Miller, bruised and limping but very alive, leaned on a railing high above the palace gardens. The air shimmered with soft light from floating lanterns. Below, streams of blue water wove between luminous trees. He sighed, smiling to himself. "Not bad for a crash landing," he muttered. "Didn't die, didn't embarrass her too badly, might even get that dinner." As if summoned by his words, a voice spoke behind him. "You speak as though your survival were unexpected." Jake turned. Queen Sarathra stood at the edge of the balcony, wearing no armor tonight, only a flowing robe that caught the moonlight and made her look more myth than mortal. Her crown of vines glowed faintly, pulsing with her heartbeat. "Unexpected," he said with a grin. "Try miraculous." She walked closer, the silver of her skin reflecting the twin moons above. "My warriors still question you," she said softly. "They cannot understand why a creature so fragile fights with such heart." Jake shrugged. "Because that's what we do. We break, we rebuild, and we keep swinging." Her lips curved, almost fondly. "You speak as if life is a battle." "Sometimes it is," he said, looking at her. "And sometimes, if you're lucky, you get to fight beside someone worth it." Their eyes met, and for a heartbeat the whole world went still. Then somewhere deep within the palace, an alarm shattered the quiet. Red light flashed across the towers. Guards ran through the halls. Sarethra's expression hardened instantly, regal calm snapping back into place. "Stay here," she ordered, summoning a blade of pure energy from her wrist armor. Jake grabbed her sword from the nearby stand. "Not a chance." "Human," she warned, "this is not your fight." He met her gaze. "It is as if they're coming for you." Before she could stop him, he ran after her. They found the intruders in the throne room, cloaked figures bearing the mark of the rival House Cathar, the same clan that had challenged Sarethra's rule for decades. The leader hissed, "The queen weakens her bloodline by sharing her blade with an outsider. We will restore honor by removing you both." "Great," Jake muttered. "Intergalactic politics, my favorite." Blades clashed, energy crackled, the air filled with sound, chaos, fury, fire. Sarethra fought like light itself, graceful and merciless. Jake, by contrast, fought like a man with nothing to lose and no idea what he was doing, which, surprisingly, worked. When one of the attackers lunged for Sarethra's back, Jake threw himself between them. The strike hit his arm instead. He shouted in pain but didn't fall. "Jake," she cried, turning, eyes wide, not with anger but fear. Real human fear. He grinned weakly. "You said fight with you. I'm just following orders." Rage flashed across her face. She turned her blade in a blur of silver and blue, striking down the last of the intruders. The room fell silent except for the sound of Jake's labored breathing. Guards rushed in, too late. The queen knelt beside Jake, pressing her glowing hand to his wound. A soft golden light sealed the cut, leaving only a faint scar. Her voice trembled. "Why would you risk yourself for me?" He looked up at her with a crooked smile. "Because someone had to remind you that being flawless isn't the same as being alive." Her hand lingered against his cheek. Her golden eyes softened, storm fatting to sunlight. "You are a fool," she whispered. "Yeah," he said, "but you're fool apparently." For a long moment, neither spoke. The guards watched silently as their queen, the warrior who had never bowed to anyone, touched the forehead of a human who dared to stand beside her. She stood finally, regal once more. "Take them away," she commanded, nodding toward the unconscious intruders. Then she looked back at Jake. "You will rest. That is an order." He smirked. "You're really bad at letting people thank you, you know that." She turned, hiding the small smile that tugged at her lips. "And you," she said, walking toward the door, "are very bad at obeying." Later that night, as the twin moons hung over the palace, Sarethra stood alone on the balcony. She looked down at the sword, now resting once again in Jake's quarters, glowing faintly even from afar. For centuries, no one had touched it without burning. And yet this human, clumsy, loud, endlessly alive, had not only held it, he had made it sing. She closed her eyes, feeling a strange warmth in her chest. "Foolish human," she whispered into the night, "what are you doing to me?" And far below, in his room, Jake murmured the same question, not knowing the stars were listening, and already writing the next chapter of their impossible story. The palace was quiet again, too quiet. After the attack, the halls that usually rang with music and laughter now carried only whispers. Jake sat on the edge of his bed, his arm bandaged and throbbing. He turned the queen's sword over in his hands, watching its faint blue light pulse in time with his heartbeat. It felt alive, connected to something, or maybe someone far bigger than him. The door opened softly. "Still awake?" Queen Sarethra asked, stepping inside. She wore no armor, no crown, just a simple dark cloak that made her silver skin glow under the soft lantern light. Jake grinned tiredly. "Kinda hard to sleep when you almost lose an arm. Also, the healing stuff you used, it itches like crazy." Her golden eyes flicked toward his wound. "Pain means life," she said quietly. "You should be grateful." "Sure," he said, leaning back. "I'll write a thank you letter to Pain later." She almost smiled, almost. Then her expression softened. "You fought bravely today." "I fought stupidly," he corrected. You said stay put, and I did the exact opposite. Yes, she admitted, her voice lowering, and yet, had you not, I might have fallen. That caught him off guard. Wait, you, the unstoppable queen, you don't fall. For a long moment she didn't speak. Then she stepped closer, sitting beside him. The air between them seemed to hum, warm and charged. I am not made of stone, human, she said softly. I bleed, I fear, I remember. He looked at her, really looked. The confident ruler, the flawless warrior, now just a woman staring out at the stars like they held answers she couldn't find. Remember what? He asked gently. She hesitated. A war long before you were born. I trusted someone once, someone I called my equal. He betrayed me. My people suffered. Since then, I fight alone. Jake was silent for a moment. Then he smiled faintly. Guess you broke your own rule when you handed me that sword, huh? Her eyes met his, sharp and shining. Perhaps I did. A quiet pause stretched between them, the kind that said everything words couldn't. Then the ground trembled. The walls shook, an explosion echoed outside. Sarathra stood instantly, cloak swirling behind her. They've returned, she hissed. The Cathar have come for war. Jake jumped up, grabbing the sword. Then let's give them a welcome party. Jake, she said firmly, you are still wounded, stay here. He looked at her, a spark of defiance in his eyes. You handed me your blade, remember. That means we fight together. For a heartbeat she looked like she might argue. Then slowly she nodded. Very well, fight with me. Outside the night was chaos. Ships roared above the palace, raining fire. Soldiers clashed in the glowing courtyards. The air burned with smoke and light. Sarathra leapt into battle, her blade flashing like lightning. Jake followed close behind, swinging wildly but somehow staying alive, half luck, half adrenaline, and maybe a little divine intervention. At one point, an enemy soldier aimed a plasma spear straight at her. Jake threw himself forward, blocking the strike with her sword. The impact sent him flying backward into the marble wall. Jake, she cried, spinning to cover him. Her fury was a storm, unstoppable, brilliant. He pushed himself up, dazed but grinning. I'm fine, totally fine, mostly fine. Sarathra moved like fire incarnate, every step a dance of precision. Jake fought beside her, not with grace but with heart, stubborn, relentless, utterly human. When the battle ended, the courtyard lay in ruins. The surviving enemies fled into the night, leaving behind silence and smoke. Jake sank to his knees, exhausted. Sarathra walked to him, her breath heavy but steady. You risked your life again, she said, voice trembling between anger and something softer. He looked up at her with a tired smile. That's kinda my thing. You are reckless, she said, foolish. Yeah, he said, meeting her gaze, but you'd miss me if I was. She froze. For a long, endless moment, the only sound was the crackle of distant fires. Then slowly, she knelt beside him. Her hand brushed his face, fingers cool against his warm skin. You are insufferable, she whispered, and yet, when you fight, I feel alive again. He grinned faintly. Guess that makes us a good team. Sarathra leaned closer, her golden eyes glowing in the firelight. Perhaps, she murmured, it makes us something more. Before either could speak again, a flare shot across the sky, a signal of retreat. The battle was over for now. She rose, helping him to his feet. Rest, Jake Miller. Tomorrow the stars will judge our victory. He smiled wearily. Tomorrow, think they'll go easy on us. She looked at him, her human warrior, her chaos, her miracle, and said softly, the stars are never kind, but tonight they shine for us. And as the night wind carried away the smoke of battle, they stood side by side, queen and human, soldier and fool, both realizing that the fight had changed them forever. The suns rose over the ruined palace, their light touching the scars of battle. Jake sat on a broken pillar, watching the golden sky. He was sore, exhausted, and alive. Queen Sarathra approached, her silver cloak gleaming. You fought well, human. He smiled weakly. You too, your majesty, nice teamwork. She stopped beside him, silent for a moment. Then she drew the royal blade, the one that had chosen him. Its blue glow danced between them. My people say, she said softly, that one who shares her blade shares her soul. I offer it again, not as your queen, but as your equal. Jake hesitated, heart pounding. I'm no hero, Sarethra. Her golden eyes met his. You already are. He reached out, fingers brushing hers as he took the sword. Light flared soft, alive, binding. Sarethra smiled, her voice a whisper. Then fight with me always. Always, Jake said, grinning. Above them, the first shadow of a massive ship crossed the suns. The wind rose, carrying her words like a promise. Let the stars remember this day. And together, the queen and the human faced the dawn, ready for whatever the universe dared send next.